was sitting 6 feet away, not in another room, not down the hall, 6 feet away, in my own recliner, in my own living room. And my children spoke about my death like I was already a headline in the obituaries. $1.2 million. That's what they were dividing. Not someday, not when the time comes. That afternoon, out loud, while I sat there breathing, watching, listening to every single word. I want you to remember that number as you listen to this. $1.2 million. Because by the end of this story, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to actually answer it, not just for me, but for yourself. Because none of us think this could happen to us. Until it does. I didn't inherit that money. I want that understood before anything else. I built a small trucking company from a single 15-year-old rig I bought with a loan I almost didn't get approved for. 38 years, I drove routes nobody else wanted, worked weekends nobody else would touch, and slowly, painfully, built a fleet of 11 trucks and a business that finally, in my 60s, started paying me back for every sacrifice I'd made. My wife, Carol, was there for all of it. The lean years, the years we ate the same soup 4 nights running, the year we almost lost the house. She passed 6 years ago. Cancer. Fast and cruel. And it took something out of me that never fully came back. After she was gone, I sold the company. I didn't have the heart to run it without her cheering me on from the kitchen window every time I pulled into the driveway. The sale, plus the house, plus everything we'd saved together. It came to just over $1.2 million. I never told my children the exact number. I don't know why, looking back. Maybe some part of me already knew what a number like that could do to a family. Let me tell you about my children, because you need to understand who was sitting in my living room that day. My oldest, Marissa, is a school teacher. Kind mostly. The kind that runs out the moment money enters a conversation, though I didn't fully understand that until recently. My middle son, Curtis, has never held a job longer than 14 months in his entire adult life. Always a plan. Always a business idea that needed just a little more to finally take off. My youngest, Denise, is the one I always thought I understood best. Quiet. Watchful. The one who used to sit with me in the garage while I worked on engines, asking questions, wanting to learn. 3 different people. 3 different relationships with money. With me, with each other. I never imagined all 3 of them sitting in a circle in my living room, calculating my worth down to the dollar, while I sat there with a cup of coffee going cold in my hands. It was a Sunday. They'd all come over, which, if I'm honest, should have been my first warning, because the 3 of them are rarely in the same room voluntarily anymore. I'd gone to the kitchen to refill my coffee. I wasn't trying to be quiet. I wasn't hiding. I was just an old man walking slowly across his own kitchen floor, the way you do at 71. And by the time I came back with my mug, they'd already started. Curtis was talking numbers. Rough numbers, but close enough that my stomach dropped. If we're being realistic, once everything's liquidated, we're probably looking at just over $1 million. Maybe 1-2. Marissa said something about being fair about it. Fair, as if fairness was the primary concern in a conversation about their still living father's money. And Denise, quiet, watchful Denise, said the thing that I don't think I'll ever fully recover from. She said, "He's not going to last forever. We should at least have a plan in place before something happens." I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen, coffee mug in hand, and none of them noticed me. Not one of them looked up. I want to pause the story here, because I need to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you keep watching. If you were standing in that doorway, if you heard your own children, the ones you raised, the ones you sacrificed everything for, calmly dividing your money while you were still breathing in the next room, what would you do? Would you walk in and confront them right then, in that moment, coffee mug still in your hand? Would you say nothing and quietly grieve a version of your family you thought you knew? Would you go straight to a lawyer the next morning? I want you to actually think about your answer. Type it in the comments if you want. I read every single one, and I promise you, your answer matters more than you think, because there is no clean, correct response to a moment like that. I've replayed it 100 times since, and I still don't fully know if I did the right thing. But I'll tell you what I actually did, not what I should have done. What I did. I set my coffee down on the counter, quiet enough that the mug didn't even click against the granite. And I walked back down the hallway to my bedroom, and I sat on the edge of my bed, the same bed Carol and I shared for 34 years, and I didn't cry. I want to be honest about that too. I didn't cry. I just sat there, feeling something shift inside my chest that I don't have a good word for. Not quite grief, not quite rage. Something in between, something heavier than both. I heard them laughing in the living room 20 minutes later. Laughing like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't just spent 20 minutes carving up my life while I was in the next room. I walked back out eventually. I smiled. I let Denise hug me goodbye at the door. I let Curtis tell me about his newest business idea, the one that just needs a little more, like always. I let Marissa remind me to take my blood pressure medication, and not one of them ever knew I'd heard a single word. I haven't confronted them. Not yet. I want to be honest with you about that, because I know some of you watching are already yelling at your screen, telling me to call a lawyer, to cut them out, to protect myself. Maybe you're right. I think about it every single day. But here's what's held me back. And I want to know if this makes sense to you, or if I'm just an old man making excuses for people who don't deserve them. These are still my children. The same ones who used to fall asleep on my chest as babies. The same ones I taught to ride bikes, to drive, to tie a necktie for their first job interviews. People are capable of saying ugly things about money and still loving you. I have to believe that, or I don't know what I have left. But I also can't stop hearing Denise's voice. He's not going to last forever. Said so plainly, so practically, like she was talking about a car that needed replacing, not her father. Here's something none of my children know, and I'm not going to pretend this story has a tidy answer, because it doesn't. Not yet. I've started meeting with an attorney. Quietly. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that money, or when, or how. I haven't decided if I'm going to tell them what I overheard, or let them keep wondering why I've suddenly gotten cautious about my finances, why I ask more questions now, why I've stopped mentioning numbers at all. Some days I want to walk into that living room and tell all three of them exactly what I heard, word for word, and watch their faces. Some days I think that would only give them the chance to apologize their way back into a version of trust they haven't earned. And some days, most days, if I'm honest, I just want to skip the whole conversation and let my actions, whatever they end up being, speak for themselves. I don't know which of those is the right path. I genuinely don't. I keep coming back to that Sunday afternoon. The coffee mug, the doorway, the sound of my own children's voices talking about my death like a logistics problem to be solved. I think about Carol sometimes and what she would have done. She was always braver than me about hard conversations. She would have walked right into that living room, I think. She wouldn't have waited 3 weeks, wouldn't still be sitting on the edge of our bed some nights, turning it over and over. But she's not here to tell me what to do, so it's just me and this money and 3 children who have no idea their father knows exactly what they said about him. I'm not going to tell you what I decide, not in this video anyway, because honestly, I haven't decided yet, and I think there's something important in sitting with that uncertainty rather than rushing to a neat ending, the way these stories usually do. What I will ask you is this, one more time, seriously, if this were your family, if you overheard your own children dividing up everything you'd built while you were still very much alive in the next room, what would you actually do? Would you confront them immediately? Would you quietly change your will without saying a word? Would you give them the benefit of the doubt the way I've been trying to? Tell me in the comments. Tell me your honest answer, not the answer that sounds good. I read every single one, and I promise you, this story isn't over. I'll be sharing what happens next in a future video, once I actually know myself. Until then, I just want to know, what would you have done in my place?